There's a story so strange, so tragic, and yet so deeply human, that it will leave you questioning everything you're fighting for right now. It's the story of a man who fought in a war that had already ended. For 30 years, he held his ground in the jungle, clutching his rifle, surviving off scraps, hiding in the shadows, convinced that the enemy was still out there. He missed the end of the war, the rebuilding of his nation, the death of his emperor, the rise of a new world, because no one told him, or rather, he refused to believe them. But this is not just his story. This is our story, because many of us today are still fighting battles that ended years ago, and we don't even know why. This is the story of Hiroo Onoda, the soldier who didn't know what he was fighting for. But more importantly, this is a story about you. It was 1944. The world was on fire. World War II was nearing its chaotic end, and Japan was clinging to its last strongholds. Onoda, just 22 years old, was trained in secret warfare, guerrilla tactics, loyalty unto death. Before his deployment to the remote island of Lubang in the Philippines, his commanding officer looked him in the eyes and gave him a chilling order. Under no circumstances are you to surrender. You are to hold this position, even if it takes years, even if you're the last man standing. The Emperor will return for you. One day. With blind obedience, Onoda saluted and disappeared into the jungle. He didn't know that the world would change, that the empire would fall, that no one was coming. In August 1945, Japan surrendered, but deep in the jungle, Onoda and his few surviving comrades dismissed the surrender leaflets as enemy propaganda. To them, it was just another trick, a psychological ploy to smoke them out. So they doubled down, sabotaging local farms, engaging in shootouts with police, surviving on bananas, stolen livestock, and rainwater. As the years passed, villagers began to speak of a phantom soldier who haunted the island, a ghost from a war that had long ended. Onoda believed he was fulfilling his duty, that every cold night, every bullet fired, every month in hiding was for the honor of his nation. He didn't realize that the battle he was fighting existed only in his mind. Imagine waking up every day to fight, with no progress, no feedback, no new orders, no end in sight, just survival. That's what many of us do. We cling to dreams that no longer serve us. We chase goals we set when we were someone else. We fight to maintain relationships that are long dead. We seek validation from people who stopped caring years ago. Why? Because, like Onoda, we were given an emotional order early in life. Don't quit. Prove them wrong. Never show weakness. Make them proud. And we obeyed. But here's the truth. Orders expire. Just because something was once true doesn't mean it still is. Just because a mission once mattered doesn't mean it still does. Just because you committed to a path doesn't mean you have to die on it. Lubang Island was Onoda's prison. But what about you? Your jungle might not be made of trees. It might be made of shame, or guilt, or pride, or anger, or fear of starting over. And just like Onoda, maybe you've ignored all the signs. The job that drains your soul, the relationship that steals your peace, the dream that's become a burden, the habit that's eating your life from the inside out. Every day, life drops leaflets into your jungle. You don't have to do this anymore. You're allowed to walk away. You're allowed to change. But you keep saying, it must be a trick. It can't be over. Let's be honest. It's not easy to stop. Why do people cling to battles that clearly should be over? 1. Identity. You've built your self-worth around the fight. Without the struggle, who are you? 2. Loyalty to the past. You feel like quitting dishonors all the effort and time already invested. 3. Fear of the unknown. The fight may be painful, but at least it's familiar. 4. Hope against hope. You keep believing that someday something will change if you just hang on. 5. Pride. You don't want to admit it's over, so you suffer quietly and persistently. But there comes a time when the pain of staying becomes worse than the fear of leaving. Onoda's last comrade was killed in a shootout. By 1972, he was the only one left, still holding the line, still fighting, still believing. Then, in 1974, a young Japanese adventurer named Norio Suzuki set out to find him. He wanted to meet a panda, a yeti, and the soldier who won't surrender. He found him. Onoda listened, but he refused to believe. Unless his commanding officer relieved him in person, he said, he would not stand down. So Norio went back to Japan. He tracked down the commander, now old, retired, running a bookstore. That officer flew to Lubang, put on his old uniform, and stood before Onoda. And he said, "You are officially relieved of duty." Only then did Hiroo Onoda lower his weapon. When Onoda returned to Japan, crowds welcomed him as a hero. But inside he was hollow. The Tokyo he knew was gone. The emperor was gone. His parents had aged. His siblings had married and moved on. Technology had advanced. The culture had shifted. The Japan he remembered no longer existed. He came back to a world that no longer needed him. Worse, he came back to a self that no longer made sense. For 30 years, he had lived with purpose, even if that purpose was based on a lie. And now, he had time but no meaning. He had freedom but no direction. He had survived, but he hadn't lived. And here's where the story hits the deepest part of the soul. What do you do when you realize you've spent the best years of your life on a battle that didn't matter? That the war you sacrificed everything for was already over? That you were loyal to a ghost? Onoda himself later admitted that his return was one of the hardest parts of his life. He tried to adapt, but the modern world felt alien. He moved to Brazil, hoping to start over as a cattle rancher. Quiet, isolated, hidden. Years later, he returned to Japan once more. Not to rejoin it, but to give back to it. He began teaching youth about survival, resilience, and purpose. He turned his pain into service. He transformed his wasted years into wisdom. He never got those 30 years back, but he made sure they meant something by helping others not to make the same mistake. And that's the lesson. Wasted time doesn't have to stay wasted if you choose to redeem it. So how do you know when it's time to stop fighting? 1. The mission has no meaning anymore. 2. The cost outweighs the benefit. 3. You're staying out of obligation, not conviction. 4. You're shrinking, not growing. 5. You're doing it just because you always have. Letting go isn't quitting, it's growing. It's saying, I choose life. Onoda surrendered to reality, and you can too. You can drop the sword. You can leave the jungle. You can forgive yourself for staying too long and still move forward with power. You can create a new life, one built on present truth, not past commands. You don't need to wait for permission. You can be your own commander now. So I ask you now, what war are you still fighting? What are you clinging to that's already over? Whose voice is still echoing in your head? What belief is keeping you in the jungle? And more importantly, what would it feel like to finally come home? Hiroo Onoda's story is bizarre, but it's also a mirror. So many of us are living in mental jungles, fighting old battles, following expired orders, holding on to identities that no longer fit. You don't have to. You don't have to waste another year. You don't have to wait 3 decades. You don't have to die on a hill that's not even yours. So here's your moment. Declare it. Write it in the comments. What battle am I done fighting? Say it. Mean it. Set yourself free. And if this story moved you, do something with it. Like this video. Share it with someone who needs it. Subscribe for more real, raw stories that shake us awake, because you never know. Your comment, your courage, your voice might be the thing that pulls someone else out of their jungle. The war is over. You are relieved of duty. Now live like it.